In this, on the same vein, our shelving is unsafe and not library shelving. I watched a shelf of teenage graphic novels fall on a child the other day, a teenager, because we have like shelving that you'd have in your home. We have like these oak, beautiful bookcases, but they're not library bookcases.
Was the kid hurt?
No, he was just like, shocked and apologetic. Oh my gosh, I just dumped these over. I said, no, we'll put it back. But this is a problem. Our DVDs frequently do that. So we don't have appropriate shelving. The carpet is over 30 years old because there's an article in the newspaper. This has been discussed before. Mm-hmm. So these kinds of things, I would hope would be addressed as a safety issue if we were taken over by Solano County, that these would change. And I appreciate that the staff is being cared for in this process. I do see that. I don't know how the community is being cared for. Like, I'm of two minds. Giving control over, does that help our community and our patrons or not? I mean, I can see the benefit for staff, perhaps. I mean, it looks like maybe with the extra PERS payment and stuff, for us, it will maybe be a wash as far as benefits and wages. But what are the patrons getting? I mean, yes, we're getting a few electronic things. We're getting the tutoring.com. We're getting some extra services. But what are they getting in our building? Like when they come into the building, what are they getting? So that's a question.
Can I just ask, this is what would be my hope, is that they're getting better customer service, because like the phone calls are being taken care of. We still have all of our, some of the issues that we've had in the past of not having enough oversight. They will be, my understanding is they'll be doing that oversight, so everyone will be getting their reviews.
Consistency.
That has not always happened. In fact, unfortunately, we've only had a few in the last 7 years, and they've been taken place recently. So things like that I think goal setting and expectations as far as employees, and I think that is all gonna go into the customer service that is able to be offered to the patrons. No matter what, whether they take it over or not, we have to do something with the money that we have, unfortunately, to remodel the library. But I think, unfortunately, we only have such a very small amount. The idea of expanding or building a new building just doesn't seem like this community is ready for this. And you guys tell me, did a few years ago, did they try to do a bond for the library?
Yeah, we've tried to do a couple.
Yeah.
And they both, in my tenure here, they both have not even gotten past the
Initial stages.
Yeah, I mean, even back in the day, 10 years ago, we were having like a joint venture even between the city, where the mayor was at our meetings and everything, and we all met in the library, and we still couldn't get the public to buy in on it. But then we also hit a recession right around the same time, so it was like the perfect storm, and people just weren't willing to buy into it.
I'm hoping some of those updates, like carpet and, a new face and hopefully shelving, we do have enough money for that. Maybe a reconfiguration of our current space. I think that's what we were hoping a while ago when we did have an architect come but unfortunately they presented such a huge scheme of things that we were not ready to go there. Like on my end, my anticipation is that they were going to come and design what we can do in our current space, and then when it was presented to us, it kind of
building like 3 new buildings.
Yes.
10 million.
But Melissa, when you take on a project like that, you have to, you talk about the 20-year facilities, you have to build something for the next 20 years. You can't think about now or next year. You're literally planning for a double population.
Yeah.
So thankfully we have those plans now and 3 different options when
that's
we
right.
get there.
I'd like us to really think about the use of language around our conversation here. I've heard a couple of times the phrase taken over, and I think as long as we're the governing board, no one's taking over anything. And I also think what we're talking about really doing is contracting for services. And they're really high-end services, and I think that's why we talk about the look and the feel maybe being a little different. And but we are still the governing board, and we're still in charge of every aspect of the library. But I think we're talking about a much higher level service to our patrons, and a much higher level offering a variety of services, in terms of what they offer now in the county, and what we can sort of offer to our community as well. So I just be really cognizant of the word taken over, because I don't think that's an accurate description of what we're considering.
So it's my understanding from conversations with other staff that we would be Solano County staff. Is that correct? So we would be taken over. You would have no control over the staff. You would have control over the money and the buildings, but not the staff.
Right, so you were saying what would happen to the patrons in the library when it's taken over, when the library is taken over. And the library is not being taken over by anybody. We own the library still. We take in the sales tax money. We make the decisions in terms of, and we have decided, if we decide at that point, if we decide that Solano County is the best executive management for our staff, then that's a decision we've made as a governing board. But that doesn't mean that anybody's taken over. That means we've contracted with an entity to run our services for us, rather than hiring an individual and doing that on our own, because we think that's a better fiduciary responsibility for our taxpayers. So I think that's kind of the way that, and you can see that in the budget, right? I mean, there's only certain services that we're asking be taken care of, and then the other things like, building expansion, or 20-year facilities plan, or those sorts of things are still all on us. And again, like the other libraries, we still own our buildings and make those decisions. It's a contractual basis.
One thing that I was thinking is, thinking about issues that have come up in our public meetings. Like, for example, there was a gentleman that was coming into the library. This was brought up at a public meeting, and he was watching things that were inappropriate. And I think that issue drug out way longer than it should have. Having someone who can guide, I think, the staff quickly on what to do, and I think we'll get a much quicker response, and get some of those issues taken care of a lot quicker than have them lingering on, which obviously would be better for our patrons as well, because they don't have these lingering issues. As a mom, if I had my kiddos in the library and they were seeing inappropriate things, I would be very upset,
Sure.
at that. And that was, I think, a concerning situation. I was just trying to think of one of the situations that came up at our library that could be addressed.
What was the guy looking at? Trump speeches?
No.
Nah,
So I agree, that was a concerning situation, that was the administration of the library, who falls under you guys. So, I mean, if he was not doing his job correctly, then he was not being told to do his job correctly.
Exactly, because
So-
we meet once a month, right? So the idea that you'd have somebody that was much more readily available, rather than once a month to make a decision on something like that, I think is what we're looking at, a higher end level of touch of service.
Above, like, the director, or
Exactly,
whatever they're
right.
going to be called when we get
Exactly,
Solano.
yeah.
Okay. I have some other questions. Some of the staff were concerned about materials ordering and what kind of control they might have over that. Like, can we add additional items that are, for example, like local authors or things that have been donated? Or maybe we notice, our children's librarian said, if he notices that a series needs an additional book, would that be easy to access? Yes, okay, so I'm getting the nod.
It's a bigger answer than that, but
Do you want to?
Yeah.
please.
Presumably, the county would do ordering, but also listen if we wanted other things.
Yeah, the way we do ordering is we use our librarians that are out in the field, okay? We do something called centralized selection, but they are done by, for instance, our children's folks each have a section, and they order from, for like easy books or picture book, not picture book, or, easy readers or fiction or nonfiction, juvenile. Same thing with adults. What we do centralize, and we do have a centralized selector, is everybody's going to order a bestseller. It doesn't make any sense to have selectors in 8 libraries, each ordering a copy of that. So some things that we know are going to be, so the answer to your question. And then the selectors always are looking for recommendations from other staff. So I think that,
And then since you're up, presumably,
okay,
presumably, the management at the library, if they see something ADA non-compliant or unsafe, that will be brought to our attention and dealt with in some way.
yes. And a lot of it we just take care of. I've got a hole in the floor at the Vacaville Town Square Library that we're dealing with right now. So, yes, I mean, we take safety, of both, not only the public, but safety of the staff, too. It's important that, we work in a safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not going anyplace. Go ahead.
Can I directly ask this question to you, which is,
Well, yeah, present it to us and then.
okay, which is what I had asked before about the books coming to us, but us not having the space.
I have an answer to that.
Thank
Okay.
We
Thank
we have a library called Springstown in Vallejo that is 2,700 square feet.
Yeah.
I know you're familiar, okay? When they get more returns than they can take, there is a way, we have a way that we've organized it where we say, okay, send these over to the Kennedy Library, which is, 40,000 square feet. So there is a way that we look at with, especially our smaller libraries, that they move items that they can no longer shelf or don't have the room to shelf to another library. So we deal with that when we deal with our floating collections, because we're aware that, not every library can handle everything. And it's also an accumulation, like, if there's a bestseller, we don't want 8 copies at Fairfield and nobody else has any copies. So there's a way to do a distribution that way.
And never say never, but presumably with the number of libraries you're running, there's not a lot of things that come up at this point that you haven't seen at some place before.
Probably not. And the other thing that what I just want to, since I'm here, your other concern about, we have policies and procedures, behavior policies and procedures. And when you talk about inappropriate looking on a website, we have been directed by the Board of Supervisors, and this would be one of the policies that we do. It's an automatic 30-day suspension. Even if the customer says, oh, I didn't mean to do that, I just clicked on it and came up, we say, sorry, you have a 30-day suspension. So we do have policies in place to discuss some of the behavioral issues that may arise.
Thank you.
So when Bonnie was up here before, she said that our policies and procedures would stay the same. So is that not true because of what she just said?
Well, the board policies would stay the same, but I assume the rules by which
Procedural.
you run yeah.
Operational, okay, because we do have there is a policy for that viewing, anyway.
And I think probably if their policy was probably better than what we have, then they would come to a board meeting, at a public meeting, and we would be able to review it and adopt a new policy if we decide to do so.
I only have one more comment, again, about space. Because the middle school is moving down the street. I realize that you're saying we don't have the money to expand. This is all the space we have. We're not sure what we're going to do with all those 6th graders next year. So, you're also the school board, so this is on your radar, and we're already full. So, just a thought.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I do have, I'll just say, I do have some concerns about the idea of notifying the community, and maybe we need to do a little more outreach on social media and maybe put something in the papers to let the community know that this is on the radar and being discussed. And, this has already been here at open meetings several times, but of course, not a lot of people necessarily come in or watch these or pay attention. So what would be the next step if we decide to go this route? Is the MOU we have to take a formal vote that this is something we want to do first, and then the MOU would be worked up and we negotiate any specific terms. Okay.
So I was gonna say this whole packet is on our website, because I looked at it today through the website. So that is one place that people can go to look. I mean, I do think we
Yeah.
need to still do more outreach, but
My-
anyone can now go, if they're watching this, and see the whole packet and see everything that we have. in front
Sure.
of us.
My concern is, I mean, like we've seen many times before on many issues, having it available versus affirmatively trying to notify people are two things. And, you know, a lot of times, whether it's the city or us or whatever, you hear people coming in after it's been at several meetings and it's been discussed at length, and they say, well, I didn't know anything
heard
about
that,
this.
yeah.
And I just think that, you know, we need to really make an effort. If people don't want to pay attention, you can't do anything about it really, but we need to make the effort to show that we have tried to let people know this is something that's being discussed, and if you do care, you do need to come give us your input.
So can we put that in the newspaper and on we have a Dixon Public Library Facebook page, and then continue to publicize it throughout the next month, and
Put it on the
then
June
make sure
agenda.
we notify through those specific outlets as well, when our next board meeting is.
And we have done some publicity before around this issue. Like you said, this is probably the third time Bonnie's been here to present in the last year-ish on this topic, and with these, you know, with these numbers or numbers like these. So it isn't as though there hasn't been any outreach, but
No.
if we want to, you know, make sure before we have a final vote that there's, that, you know, we've done our due diligence, I think that's fine.
Yeah, so I mean, I wonder if we try to really make that effort for the next month. Is this something that we want to have on the agenda for an actual action item at the next meeting?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, that will give plenty of time for people to hear about this and come in and speak up if they want to, have questions answered. And then we can have the action.
And we have had people comment at every single one of the meetings that this has been on the agenda, so.
When is the
And-
next meeting?
And I think we have
In a month.
someone with their hand up
Yeah.
over there.
Oh, come on up.
So John, it's the second meeting of June, so it'd be the 13th.
Okay.
Are you here?
No, I'm gonna be on vacation.
Okay.
Maybe we can do it 2 meetings?
Yeah, we can figure
Oh,
that out.
okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't mean to offend in any way, but, you know, the library meetings aren't the most exciting meetings. So I'm not sure that, you know, there's a big audience watching at home, and like there might be for certain issues that come up citywide. The other thing, if we're talking about how we address each other and language, when I was sitting back here, I was hearing the term customer service. Now, I take that, I think we have to make a distinction here about what we're talking about in terms of customer service, because I would take great offense if if anyone is trying to say that there is something lacking in customer service from the staff, because I don't find that to be the case.
We have great staff.
Can I
Yeah,
ask how
Absolutely
you,
great staff.
I don't think that was the intent. I think it was the idea, if you're answering a phone, it's hard to give full attention to someone that's in front of you.
Okay.
And so, at least my take on it is, by taking that obligation away from them, we empower them to do a better job for the people that are walking through the door.
Right.
And
But
that
I
doesn't
think-
mean they don't already do a
I
great job.
think we need to be careful if we're going to be careful about language in other ways. We need to be careful about that language, because they do a wonderful job. And as I said, they've put up with so much for so many years. I wouldn't have put up with nearly as much as many members of this staff has. There's just there have been periods of time where there has just been constant upheaval. And so I want us, everyone, the board and anyone who comes up here, I would hope would be very concerned about how they talk about the service from our staff.
We have great
Yeah,
staff.
thank you.
And we know that.
Yeah.
We tell them. Through
Yes.
breakfast, sometimes.
Any other board questions or comments? Any other public questions or comments? Okay, thank you for your
Thank you, Ginger, for
comments.
your input.
Okay, so we are moving on to 11B.
It's my recommendation at this time that the board adopt the positions of supervising librarian and librarian assisting supervising to be adopted as the Dixon Public Library job descriptions. With the interim directors that have come through the workplace, employees have increased work responsibilities that do include supervision. So to ensure consistency in operations, I'm recommending that the positions be renamed, reassigned, and the salary range for supervising librarian is $36.78 to $44.71. The assistant librarian supervising is $25.85 through $31.73. The job descriptions are included. They are here as, I should have written draft, they're Solano County classifications of the library assistant supervising and the librarian supervising. We currently have employees that would meet the qualifications of both positions.
And again, this is an example of where our staff has done amazing,
Yes.
keeping things running and doing a great
Yes.
job for our citizens. So do we have any board questions or comments about this item?
Well, it seems to me that the kind of turmoil that the previous speaker alluded to would not be as prevalent if we had a more organized kind of supervisorial situation.
Do we have any public questions or comments on 11B regarding adopting the supervising librarian and librarian assistant supervising job descriptions? Seeing none, do we have a motion on item 11B?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes.
Hold on, I do have a question.
Okay.
It does say that it's under first reading.
It is first reading.
Oh, so this
So
is
we
not an
don't
action
have to
item
take an
yet?
action.
Okay,
Okay.
this is, sorry, that was my mistake. Okay,
Sorry, that's why I didn't say aye.
thank you for correcting me.
Good for
11C, security quotes.
Okay, I brought this forward last month, and we discussed Safe Site Security proposal to upgrade our security monitoring. And I did go out, I made several phone calls. I only received one call back from ADT, Safety and Security, a step closer. Their quote for what Safe Side would do, there's two different quotes. They quoted us a figure of $1,089 to the difference between, Safe Side was quoting $579.95. The monthly service charge for Safe Side was $49, and for ADT was $51.99. It's my recommendation, we go with Safe Side to do the upgrade and have our remote arming and disarming, the activity alerts, the user code management, that proposal versus the ADT, which is more expensive.
Makes sense.
Are the two services equivalent in what they provide?
Yes, in the proposal, they also provided me with a cameras in the library, and I only included it to show that they did give me this quote, but it's not something that's under the A Bill of Rights, the American Librarian Association Bill of Rights. So that's not recommended.
Okay. Any board questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? Okay, so this is also not an action item, so 11B and 11C will come back at the next
Yes.
meeting
Well,
as
but we
action.
don't, we shouldn't have to take action on this.
That's true, that's just,
It's-
well,
it's
it is
in
a
within
You don't
your-
contract.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
Okay.
just, I'm bringing it forward,
yeah,
letting you
just
know.
information, yeah.
Okay.
That's, yeah, we wouldn't have to take action on that.
Okay.
Okay.
12A, Policy 3017.
The board made several recommendations, and so it is tonight for your approval, removing the same language that was just a verbiage, and then taking out the availability Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as well as occasional Sunday. Professional interaction with public is expected. But these positions would be classified as extra help for purposes of time accountability. So I've made the recommended changes and brought it forward for your action tonight.
Okay, any board questions or comments? Nope. Any public questions or comments? Okay, this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve Policy 3017?
I'll move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Do we have any board announcements or requests for future agendas? Seeing none, the meeting will stand adjourned. Thank you.